Feel the legs pushing up on the set. I'm feeling it. Feel the high that you get from the line. If you feel the rage of hell in the sky.
So Zack Snyder has been. So let me say these two things here. And then we'll get into this. So Zack Snyder and Netflix are working on a deal to do a LA cop thriller film. So expect slow-mo, expect the damn Mona Lisa type of capturing. Expect some good stuff. So I want to address two things in this video. The first thing I want to address is when people, and this is not a knock to anybody. This is just me speaking facts. When Zack Snyder makes something and people dislike it, they're not hating it. What they're saying is, excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold. What worked before is not working now. And what I'm saying is when Rebel Moon came out, part 1, part 2 don't matter. There's problems with the film. Script. Zack Snyder cannot write for crap. He just cannot. I love Zack, but he's not a good writer. He's not. He can direct, but he's not a good writer. And when he was doing the writing for both of these films, you could tell it just didn't make sense. The story was all over the place. It felt like a match of stuff. It's not a good film. When people saying that, they're not hating on Zack Snyder. They're calling what it is. It's not a good film. That's not hating on the man. They just say the films are not good. Even the diehards couldn't support the film. That's how bad Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2 were. I even said it too. Army of the Dead, say what you want about it. I can watch that film and still enjoy myself watching that film. It has problems, but it's still fun. These two films were a chore. You have to really not only turn your brain off, but you got to turn your brain off all the way down to zero to not think about logic, story, writing. It's too much I have to do just to enjoy these two films, and that was too much. The uncut version didn't help the situation. It made it more longer, so it was more of a chore to watch this film. And they did do no better than Part 1 and Part 2, the original. It doesn't matter about the views. It's a matter about the reception and the long lasting, because you don't see people rewatching Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. They will be always on Netflix and their view count will stay the same. The first one did very well because people were looking for that next Star Wars. And if Zack knocked it out of the park, we'd be having a whole different conversation. It did not. So when Part 2 came out, we were like, we're done. There's no way he can even make Part 2 resemble as better as Part 1. And it made it worse. I don't know how you make Part 2 worse. And it did. Because at least in the first one, it was more of like a space that you're traveling and you got a little bit more of the world building. The second one it is what it is. You're on a farm. You're defending a farm from crops. And it's just, it was ludicrous. Very ludicrous. Honestly, you put Part 2 battle scene in Part 1 film, and then you actually put Part 2 in scene for what I'm trying to say is the Part 1 battle scene should have been in Part 2. And Part 2 crop scene should have been in Part 1. It felt different. Like, why would we revert back to that damn planet? That planet should have been blown up, if you ask me. That should have been the ending of Part 1, blowing up that planet. And they seen their world blow up. And then they want revenge. I could write a little bit better than they can. Because you could tell there was ideals there, but they weren't executed properly. And I could go on and on about Rebel Moon. I actually have a video why Rebel Moon failed, and I might do a video on that if this one does pretty well. I never released it because, again, I got sidetracked with life. But if you guys want to know, let me know. But go back to Zack Snyder. I hope this is more grounded. So should be a little bit more up his alley. This doesn't have zombies. This doesn't have aliens. So this is more grounded. The problem is scripting. When I heard Zack is supposed to write it with the guy, I'm like, then you already done failed on this film, because Zack cannot write. He just cannot. He can direct. I think he's a perfect director, but he cannot write. Why you think the Justice League director cut did so well? Not because of Zack Snyder's writing, it's because Chris Terrio. Chris Terrio can write. That's why he won a fucking Academy Award for Argo with Ben Affleck. He can write. He can always write. That's why he got him to do Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. The whole film was garbage anyway, but he came and rewrites certain things that they fucked up on. That's why they got him anyway. He can write. The writing was never bad in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. It was just the story, the execution, and pretty much destroying what came before it. It had the same effect to Justice League. You know, somebody came in, taking a script that somebody else did, rewriting the script, doing the best way of your ability, and it just didn't work out that way. It is what it is. We already know how that is. But I think this will be fine. I just want to address those two things, because when a lot of people be saying, Zack Snyder has a lot of haters, and I'm here to tell you that, you know, I keep it real, and that's nobody hating. We just calling him what it is. He cannot write. Can he direct? Absolutely. I said it before, 300. I think Man of Steel was perfectly done. But in all those films, Zack Snyder, if he is writing, there's someone there better helping him out. Man of Steel, David Goyer. The execution was bad, and some of the dialogue was kind of, you know. But again, they were trying to do a different take, and it still was good. The Justice League director's cut, flawless. Flawless. Hell, I'll be honest with you, that film alone, as long as it is, doesn't feel that long, because the way Zack directs it and the way the writing flows, it flows pretty well. Hell, I saw The Batman, and somebody asked me, would I rather watch the Justice League or The Batman? I say the Justice League, because that film flowed very well. Like, literally, that was one of Zack Snyder's films that he's ever done, flowed well. Like, literally, I had no problem watching the film, even in those parts, the way they did it with the intermission. They did pretty well with it. I was like, wow, this doesn't really feel like a Zack Snyder film. I have to give credit where credit's due, but I have to call bullshit on crap where it's crap. Rebel Moon 1 and 2 don't matter, suck. They just garbage. I recommend people not to check out the film, because it makes you hate the space opera genre way more than what Star Wars is doing with their current films right now. That's how bad it is. It made me want to rewatch Last Jedi. That's how bad Rebel Moon was. I was like, really? Like, that's kind of how I was. And I don't like Last Jedi, and I don't like Rise of Skywalker, but I'd rather watch those two films than this. He cannot write. That's just my opinion on the matter. As always, like, subscribe. Peace. Have a Johnson day. Am I excited for it? Absolutely. I think the Zack Snyder LAPD cop grounded thing could be good. Who knows? We could probably get Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill back in these roles. I would bring them back. You know, Ben doesn't really have to get too much in shape for that, and Henry Cavill could just play a villain role. You know, finally we could have Batman versus Superman, but more grounded. You know, but as always, peace. Have a Johnson day.